Saxon Algebra 1, Lesson 53. Welcome, my students, to week 2. Well, it's technically week 15, I believe. I think this was week 14, this is week 15. Thank you, local students, for checking in with me via FaceTime at the end of last week. It is so important that we just get that into a habit. So I'm thankful that you have all found your groove and you know what day and what time you're gonna call me. I appreciate that. If we ever need to change it, we can, but please keep the good vibes going there. I really, really am grateful for how consistent you are with that. Okay, 2 topics today, both algebra, both super practical and functional and focused. So an algebra lesson might not be the favorite way to spend time in your life, but these are gems. This lesson today is a gem. So, I'm excited. I'm excited enough for both of us. Maybe you're excited too. Okay, let's review everything that we know about exponents. Because if we're gonna have a power rule for exponents, let's just remember what the heck they are. Remember that an exponent is used when we're trying to multiply something by itself a number of times, okay? So if we're trying to multiply 2 times x or x times y, an exponent's not gonna help us. But if we're trying to multiply x by itself, let's just say 5 times, then we can write it shorthand like that. All right, that's what an exponent means. Multiply this thing, remember this is called the base, and this is called the exponent. And I find this a little clumsy, but it can also be called the power. Prower, I wrote. It's like a prowler, only without the L. No, a power is what I'm trying to say. X to the power of 5. We can say that. That works too. So we can do this for all different numbers, obviously. It doesn't have to be 5. We can do it for letters, any letters we want, or we can do it with numbers. If we do it with numbers, we can actually calculate an answer, right? Like 2 to the 3rd power is 8. We can calculate those. When they have letters, we can't do anything. We just leave them like that, and that's fine. There are a few special rules. Let's just review them. Anytime you have just a plain x, you can write it with an exponent of 1, all right? If you try to raise x to the 0 power, which is perfectly fine, you can do it. It's not like the kingdom's gonna blow up, but what that is equal to is 1, okay? X to the 1st power equals x. X to the 0 power equals 1. 2 different things, right? If you raise a base to a negative power, that creates this special trapeze situation, right? And what it does is it flips it down. It takes the reciprocal, is a fancy way of saying that. I usually just talk about flipping over trapezes. But the truth is that if you have a negative reciprocal, if you have a negative exponent, you take the reciprocal of that number. The minus sign just goes away. And it has nothing to do with any minus sign that might be out here. Okay, so these are things that we know. Let's review the rules for exponents that we've learned. And I'm going to ask you to make this table with me. Make it big. Make it close to half a page, at least a third. I know you probably don't write as big as me, but I want it to be super legible in your brain. I want it to really stand out, and making it bigger is one way to do that. All right, and then when I have you draw these, one line goes all the way across the top. These 3 lines are broken. Make the top and the bottom a little smaller and the middle one a little bit bigger. All right, I'll give you a second to catch up on that. We're gonna call this the rules for exponents. All right, we use them a ton. We've already talked about the first one. That's the product rule. Product is a word that means multiplication. And sure enough, this rule is used when we're multiplying the same base. The exponents do not have to match. They can be different, but the bases have to match. And what we do is we add the exponents. Oh, you remember that. The second rule is called the quotient rule. Quotient is a word that implies division, and sure enough, this rule is used when we're dividing. Again, the same base, and there can be other things mixed in the top and the bottom, but as long as we have a base above and a base below, we can simplify that by subtracting numerator exponent minus denominator exponent. All right, always in that order. This one's tricky because whenever you have a minus sign in a formula, things can go awry, so make sure you use buckets if need be. When everything is simple, you can usually get away, and the only negative is this one. You can skate away with not using the buckets, but boy, oh boy, when you have negatives in the exponents, which we know happens sometimes, then you have drama on your hands. The third rule, the one we're going to focus on today, is the power rule. Oh, power, maybe this has something to do with exponents. It does. If you've got a base with an exponent on it, and you have to raise it to a higher power, what you do is you multiply the exponents, okay? This is the rule that we're going to focus on using. And there are some little complexities, like what if you have multiple bases in here? We'll get to that in just a minute, but right now, my dog is getting into something and I need to pause you and come back. Hang on, sorry.